That's how it's done, boys. That is how you win leagues. This match was something that we've been missing, a performance that we've been missing this entire season, right? To scrape away a win in difficult times where things are especially not going that well for you, to figure it out. When the ref is not necessarily giving you the calls and maybe not protecting your players, to win those games is what won us the league with Xavi in 2022, and it's what will be able to win us the league this season. This was a great opportunity after Madrid dropped points against Espanyol, that AA9 skills phase everybody was so upset about. And I understand it. It is what it is, though. That happens in La Liga. The refs suck, and stuff happens. So they weren't good enough to win. We were good enough to win today against Alaves in a difficult game where they made it difficult for us, and they were clogging the midfield, making it almost impossible for us to create anything on the counter or against them in the entire first half. And Hansi Flick made the changes, the players stepped up, and it was really well done. I think Lamine stepped up a lot after being visibly very frustrated for the vast majority of this game, and they connected passes, they made the right changes, they made the right decisions. The high line was highlining again like crazy today, and it worked out. Obviously, we got 3 points out of it. Now we're only 4 points behind Madrid, and next weekend it's the Madrid derby. So that's a huge opportunity for us to pick up points against even more points against our two, biggest opponents in the league this season. Say Madrid lose, right? We're going to be within 1 point of Madrid. Atleti is going to be, I think, 4 points clear of us then. And then we have a game against Atleti and Madrid to make up a big amount of that difference. And so the league is very, very much still in competition because we won today, because we got those 3 points in a very difficult match and scraped it away. That is how you win leagues. And we could win the league this season. And yeah, it's a stretch, but this was a scraped away win, which didn't go our way. Gavi went out immediately. I think he's probably going to be okay. The team was, I think, more of a precautious sub than anything else. He headbutted one of the other players, or they went up for headers, head-to-head contact. It was bad. The other guy got stretchered off in neck brace, but Gavi walked off. They took him out. That's very unfortunate, but for me, I think he, turned it around. He had a very impactful performance, I thought. Araujo got a red or yellow card in the 6th minute, and they were able to figure it out. They were able to play around that, and that's like as unfortunate as it could go as a center back, honestly, without getting a red card. So to be able to survive through this like confusing game, difficult game for the side, huge. And we're going to get into the ratings right now. Szczęsny, I thought he was fantastic. Guys, look, you criticized me a lot for some of my ratings last game, and I think it was just because I was watching 3 games at once. It's difficult to be perfect. Szczęsny was awesome, though. I think he didn't make a single save as far as I'm aware. There was one throw where he threw the ball at the top of the box and like flipped around, but got it out to Lamine so well. I wanted Lamine to just press up the pitch, see what he could do from that situation to make it up to the pole, but man, he had a good game, was coming out of his box when we needed him to, did what he needed to do, right? Every time we asked him to do something, he was there, cleared the ball when he needed to clear it, no complaints at all. I think a 7.5, an 8 out of 10 for a perfectly well done performance is very fair. And then Balde, I think Balde was okay. I don't think it was his best game, but he beat a couple men a couple times. There was one point where he just destroyed his man on the left wing, cut inside on the box, and then put in a pretty decent ball. It didn't find the feet of Lewandowski, but it did a pretty good job. I think he was better going forward in a difficult match, again, to find space when you're kind of getting flooded by 3 or 4 because of how dense they were in the midfield, how much they were able to clog the space for our players in that progressive area. Balde did okay. I'm going to give him a 6.5. Wasn't his best performance, but he did, I think, enough to affect the play. He's always a little bit further up the pitch when we're being countered, and so it seems like he doesn't track back as hard. I don't know if it's because he's so much further up the pitch or because he's not putting in as much effort there. Something to keep an eye on, though. I don't necessarily know what it is, but it's something that I've noticed. But Pau Cubarsí, I thought he was really good. Made a couple of great tackles there right at the end, and was good on the ball. I think the high line was highlining as well as it has all season today. They were offside 11 times. So that's insane. It worked out so incredibly well. Really proud of the boys today for doing something with the high line that we haven't really seen in several matches. So I think it's a huge thing going forward. Obviously, Alaves isn't the best team. Their forwards aren't the best forwards. Kike Garcia is pretty good, to be fair, or has historically been. It's good to see that it works at all anymore, because I think we've been second guessing that, especially with Araujo in it. But today it worked with Araujo. I know, guys, we'll get to him. I gave him a 10 last game. A lot of people disagreed with that. Probably a bad take, but I'm not going to apologize. It is what it is. And I think he was good today. I think he did his thing. I think the high line was highlining. He was working well with it. If he weren't working well with it, they wouldn't have been offside so much. And I think that yellow card was unfortunate. I think he drove into space okay. I think a 7.5 for him and Cubarsí is probably pretty fair. Maybe I'll give Cuba an 8 because I think he was that much better, and he didn't get a yellow card. And then Eric Garcia came in, and I'll get into him later. And then Koundé, I think, was good as well. Obviously, he's not the biggest attacking threat. He was overlapping a little bit with Lamine, but that's not where he excels. I think he was good defensively. He was decent in possession. I think a 7 for him is fair. 7 for Araujo as well. I think I'm going to adjust that to that. And then moving to the midfield, Castro was okay. He was struggling a little bit to really affect play. The team was, as a whole, was having trouble moving the ball forward. And at halftime, a lot of the guys on the stream on Big Up were saying that, he should probably come out. You should bring on Frankie de Jong or Pablo Torre, get a little bit of more progressive runs in there, some more just ball progression in general to help move the ball forward. And that's what happened, and it worked well. Not his best performance today. I think it's a 6. I think that's pretty reasonable. Gavi as well. I'm just going to give him a 6. It's unfortunate he went out early, but in those few minutes that he did have, didn't do a ton, at least in possession, and it's just a little unfortunate. It is what it is. I think he's going to be okay, though. Fingers crossed, but, hopefully it was just a precautionary sub. And I'm going to talk about Fermin too, because he was subbed on so early. I think Fermin was really good. It was like a low-key, very decent performance from Fermin. Not only was he linking up and helping create those moments in that number 10 spot pretty well, but he was, in a position where the team was having difficulty getting him the ball at all for that first half, and they figured it out. I think he was affecting play a lot more in the second half, and he did a lot of really good things. I think a 7.5 is very, very fair for what he did today. Pedri, though, again, was one of the lifelines of this team. I think without Pedri, we probably lose this match. We have a lot more difficulty getting the ball forward, even though Frankie was good when he came on. Pedri, 8.5, I think is very fair. Pedri, I think this was also one of his more difficult games where he was having trouble finding space, finding options, and they were getting cleated everywhere, right? They were getting cleared after a pass was made every single time. Ref was barely calling it. They didn't get a yellow card until, the 55th minute? They were getting fouled like crazy. They were getting pushed around. It was difficult for them to play. Pedri played well. I think an 8.5 is very fair. Lamine's probably my man of the match. I'll give him an 8.5, 9 as well, because he was putting some great balls in, beating his man a lot, making a lot of really good runs that just didn't really come together. One that stuck out amazingly was in the first half. He beat like 10 guys or something. It was wild, but it just didn't come together in the final third. Stuff like that happens. I think it was a very good performance from him in a game where he was visibly very frustrated. And to put together a win in that situation with the guys around you, also not necessarily maybe playing the best or finding the most space, I think that's very well done. Very professional win from these guys. Lewandowski, I'll give him an 8. Did finish very well on Lamine's ball, but I think he also had a couple other chances. One header specifically sticks out to me that, could have been on target a little bit better and could have been worked a little bit better. So I think an 8 is probably pretty fair, but another goal ahead of Mbappe, I'm here for that. And Rafinha, I think he had a good game. He, first of all, as a captain, was a 10 today. Easily, I love seeing him stand up for my boys in a game where, the Alaves players were ready to fight from the first minute. They were arguing, they were yelling, they were, yelling at the guys that went down very quickly, and they were flopping like crazy too. The striker, was Caillou, was going down like crazy, so easily. And so he did get a yellow card when he was walking off the pitch. That's unnecessary. But footballing terms, I think he was okay today. Made some good runs in behind, found some space, and affected play decently. Also, he found his Brazilian passport in an incredible way while he did I don't know what it's called, but it's like a reverse roulette. I don't know what it's called, but he just beat his man like crazy. I think a 7.5 to an 8 is probably where I would rate him. And then the bench, I'm going to talk about it a little bit after I explain how Hansi made some changes to really affect play and where we needed that after the first half. So the team was struggling to move the ball up the pitch. As I've said before, they were not breaking lines. They weren't really making the best runs in behind because Alaves were doing a good job of pressing them when they did get an opportunity to do so. And they were deep enough that runs in behind weren't necessarily working that well unless we caught them out, which only happened once or twice the entire first half. So in the second half, they brought on 2 guys to help control the game and sure up that ball in behind in Frankie de Jong and Eric Garcia, who I both think played very well. I'm going to give Eric Garcia a 7.5 because I think he did his job very well defensively. And Frankie de Jong, I'm going to give him an 8. I think Frankie was really, really good today. Not only intercepting passes, which is something I don't necessarily expect from him. He was just in the right position at the right time, but he was also making good plays in, but he was also making good balls in and just finding plays and finding guys in a way that wasn't really happening in the first half. I think he was so good, and I think he's been really good in the past couple games. I'm excited to see him find 100% of Frankie and see what that is. In this team. I think we were really questioning what his position is going to be in this team earlier. I made a whole video about it, but it's looking pretty good for my guy. And then Ferran Torres came in. I think Ferran was fine. It wasn't his best work. I think a 6.5 is probably there because I think he did his job, kind of. Gerard Martin, same thing, 6.5, 6. Did what he needed to do, was defensively fine, and Pau Victor, same story. Not a ton to talk about from them, but overall, boys, They did their job. They did what they needed to do. I'm proud of them for scraping out this win in a very difficult match. But if you're watching this video right now, make sure you go and watch the video on the main channel that I uploaded about Lamine and comparing him to Cristiano and kind of the history of football. It's more of a chill football video that I want you guys to just throw up in the background while you're watching City and Arsenal and Inter Milan and AC Milan today. There's some good games on, so watch them. But watch that video on the main channel as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Visca Barça. I'll also be live Thursday on Big Up, so I'll see you then. Peace.